Okay, welcome back. And this one here we're going to show you, well, I'm going to do my very best to try and recreate this bass line, which could be a bit tricky, but we'll do our best to design it again. And we're going to use Sonic Academy's Anna, like so. Okay. Now, what I will do is, I will bring in the MIDI that I used. This one here. Now, don't worry, the MIDI isn't anything complicated. It's just the same one that I had. You can see here that it's on an F. Now, if I go in here, and if I was to, I'll put it on the master. Open up this frequency analyzer like so. We'll put it on high res. And we'll just play the kick. You can hear the sub bass if I do the hold. Okay, you can see that this is the sub bass right here. It's the highest peak. So the key of this drum is F1, or it's F. Okay, so I want to actually keep my kick and my bass line in key so that they work really well together and they don't fight. So, and if you go into the kick drum here, you can see that these last two are F. So you can really tell that's because these two here are pretty much the sub part of the kick. It's the tail, and this is where the kick is actually getting its key from. So you can see how that all works. And this is also why the synth and the bass MIDI that I already have is in the key of F. It's actually F minor, but yeah. So it's in the scale of F minor, and this root note here is on the F. So now that I have got the MIDI in place, and like I say, there's just a couple of notes there that change. They're still in the F minor scale, but it's just to give a bit of variation through the loop. Okay, so bringing up Anna, and this is our sound. Okay, so this is the default sound. Now then, in oscillator 1, we're going to choose the pulse 5%. Okay, we're going to have it on, we're going to leave it as one voice, and we'll leave the octave, and push the volume up a little bit, like so. And for the second oscillator, just to help with the sound, plenty of really good waveforms here to choose from. But I think the telly kick, the talkie kick, is the one I'm after. So we need to, obviously that's not doing anything at the moment, we need to add a voice. So now you can hear that mixed in with the other one. Okay, so we want to bring this one down an octave. Now all of a sudden you can actually hear that it has that talking, very slight talking characteristic, which is named after here the waveform. Now then, I'm going to turn this down a bit, just so it's sort of supporting this first pulse wave. Okay. We'll stick with that for now. And now we're going to do some filter work. I believe it was one of the formants here, because I was going for that, kind of, that vocal type sound. And the formant filters really, really help to achieve that. So straight away you can hear it change the sound dramatically. Alright, so we're going to bring the cutoff down to about there. Okay, and the reso. all the way pretty much. We're gonna do some envelope work. So I'm gonna pull that all the way to the left. And start with that for now. Okay, so the filter envelope, which is I've set up here because I've got the envelope down. We need to just make sure that we have the amount turned all the way to the left as well. We choose this one here, different curve for the filter. And basically I'm just going to tweak now with the filter envelope and just try and get it so I can hear the bass with a bit of movement, a bit of talking character. Okay, so not too bad. Coming along. I'm going to play with this envelope here where you can actually draw in the curve yourself. Send this to the filter 1 cutoff. If you right click on your mouse, you get a new point here, so you can get even more creative. Okay, so I quite like the sound of that, and we'll see how we can get the sound to develop now with some of the effects from within inside Anna. Maybe we'll just try and thicken it out a little bit with the chorus. Sorry, go turn it on at the bottom here. Just a little bit of width. About there. Some distortion. Turn that one down to start off with. The Excite one's really good at adding some nice crispiness and higher harmonics to the sound. Don't need this reverb to be too big because it's going on a bass line. So we still want this bass to be sitting right in the front of the mix. And if you've got something with too much reverb, it actually brings it back in the mix. So we just want to have it just to help it settle into the drums. Now I'm going to push the bend range up to 12. So this means when you start to play here with your pitch wheel, when you push it all the way to the top, it's going to go up 12 semitones and down 12 semitones. And I'm just going to set that up now because I think in a B section of one of the drops, I'm going to do some pitch automation using this synth. So I'll just set that up now. But I think for now, that is a good start here to the bass. If I was to play this now with the drums. Okay, so we're now going to do some side chaining so that we can get this synth to sit better with the drums, in particular the kick. So we want to make sure we have as much room as possible for that kick to cut through. Now there are many different ways that you can, sidechain these days with, plugins that are made for sidechaining, or you can still do the more traditional, use a compressor and you've got a trigger to trigger that compressor. I'm going to do mine. I'm going to have it at the top here. This is going to be the trigger. I'm actually going to use Sonic Academy, the kick. Now I quite like to use the click, so we're going to have the click. So I'm not going to actually hear this. I'm going to turn off the output. But I like how this is a really tight and short sample, because that's exactly what is going to be going into the compressor. The compressor is going to read what's coming into it, and therefore the side chaining is affected with in different ways depending on what trigger you're using. So if you're using a really big long kick drum, then you're going to have very, very heavy sidechain compression, as that's the signal that's going into the compressor, and the compressor is going to compress or sidechain for a longer time because that big kick drum has a big audio, has a big waveform. So I like using a really tight waveform. So often I'll use a closed hat or something similar, but this is a really good one. So I'm going to send that to bus 1, and I'm going to turn the output off. So now you can see I'm playing it, but you can't hear anything because I've turned the output off. Okay, so I'm just going to record in this here. Make sure it's on the, just pull it out a little bit. Now. Now for me, Control L turns that loop into their own sections, and then Command M puts them all together. Do that again, like so. Or I believe it is I forgot what it already is. It's something, but merge or something, merging the folders together. But for me, it's just Command M, and I'll make that black. Okay. So this is my side chain trigger. Now on this one here, I am going to add a compressor. Now we're going to need to set the side chain up so that you can actually get that incoming kick that we just made to come into the compressor. So if we click on side chain, go to bus 1, because that's obviously where that trigger output is set to. Alright, now let's check out what we've got. We'll just play the kick the trigger and the bass. Just not worry about the other bits of percussion at the moment. And you can see here that the gain reduction is starting to pump. That's how you know that the side, and you can see it pumping on the one on each beat, on the downbeat. So that's how you know you've set it up right, and side chaining is go. I like the attack to be quite quick because I like the compressor to react and start working pretty much straight away when the trigger hits. You can also change the circuit type here. I quite often use this the VCA one because it's got a really fast attack. Just like the I prefer it also with no gain on it. Yeah, I like my sounds not to actually be too heavily sidechained. So that's without. And now with. So now this bass line just has a little bit more room. The kick, sorry, has a little bit more room now to come through to the front of the mix because the synth here is now ducking out of the way every time that trigger is hitting, which is at the same time as the kick. Okay, so that's a good start. Okay, so but we can make the sound even better now with some more processing here from within our plugins. What I'll do is this is a main synth, so I'm sure they'll be doing some automation with it. So I normally just use these simple high and low cut plugins, and I have them first in my chain because I know I do a lot of automation just with filtering using them. So I'll just put them in there now. Okay, so at the moment they're not doing anything. Now, I like my compressor for the sidechaining to go last on the chain. So here we go. Inside here we're going to pull up a plugin from Sugar Bytes called Wow. It's a filter plugin and it's really good at achieving the vocally type sound that we're trying to achieve here. And I find that the band reject filter often does this best. So let's get started. We're going to want this in vowel mode. Okay, so straight away that's given me more of this vocal sound that I'm trying to achieve. I might even get in there and try and give the high ends a little boost. So somewhere up there in the high range, where it just adds a bit of presence to the sound. Just going through this has given it that vocal effect, but it just took away some of the highs. Okay, so that's all good for now. I think we'll leave the wow filter at that for now. Now we'll look to experiment with a couple more plugins. And by the way, I'm doing that by pressing Command and then just dragging it. Okay, so we'll look at this from Zephyr Records. Steve Duda, I've been using this OTT compressor quite a lot. Now it's very simple, there's only limited things that you can do with the controls, but I really find that it does a great job of keeping the sound really locked in your face, and also it seems to add a nice bit of high-end little bit of presence to the sound, which is what we are trying to achieve here with this particular sound. So we'll play it through. You can see as I pulled the depth further left, obviously to 0%, the effect, this plugin has less effect, and the more I go to the right, it has more of a compressed effect. Without. Okay, that's cool. Now, this one is a good one as well, the Logic Bit Crusher plugin. I often just put this either to keep the transients, well, to stop the channel from going into the red. It's really good at just cutting off the peak of the sound, or I just add it to add a little bit of grit or a little bit of crackle to the sound. You can see obviously the lower the bit rate it is, the more noise you can hear introduced. I think I might leave it at that for now. It just adds a nice little bit of, some may say unwanted noise, but I quite like this noise, and I think it's just going to suit nicely with the sound that we're going for. So I will leave it at that for now. And there's more that we can do in the mixing stage, but for now, we're looking good, so we might look to do some automation now with the sound and get it modulating and just becoming a little bit more interesting. Okay, so we're going to look to add some modulation to this bass sound here. Just going to zoom in. Now, I often find the best way to sort out which parameter is the best way, is the best one to, modulate, is just by literally going into the synth and playing with buttons, knobs and sliders. We've already got some modulation in there happening thanks to this envelope and the envelope settings here and these ones. So if we turn a couple, we'll see what happens to the sound, and then we'll set up some automation. I think this might be something here that we can use. I think if we were to have one section like this, and then automate this envelope knob here, and then back again. I think that's a good one for us to work with, and it will. It just keeps, because obviously the notes that have been programmed in and playing this bass line is very simple. It's pretty much the same note. We have to think of other ways to keep it interesting for the listener, and obviously modulating and changing the actual sound itself is generally one of the best ways to do that. So how I like to set up my automation, you can obviously go in here, you can find Anna, and you can find the one that you're looking for, but I like to just click on latch, play it, and if I just click on that like so, now if I turn it, you can see now that the automation behind has got the correct knob that we're looking for. So don't forget to turn back to read. It's got to be back to read, so it's actually going to read the automation that you're going to put in. I think so. What we're going to do is we'll set up for halfway around, halfway through the loop here. It's going to come up all the way like so. See what that sounds like. There you go. I think something just as simple as that is just gonna, it's gonna just do what it needs to do. It's gonna keep the listener entertained, and it's just gonna keep things moving along. So I think that's good for the signature bass now, and we'll look at doing another synth to put behind it to help thicken it all up. So now we're going to load up another instance of Anna, and we will use this as our synth to thicken up the sound. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the same MIDI, don't copy, and I'm even going to just copy the exact same sidechain settings. So I'm just going to hold down Option and Command and drag it across, and it copies it. Just click into the compressor, make sure that the sidechain is still triggered, which it is. Just check that. Turn the sidechain on as well. Okay, now then, we just want something simple to thicken out the back of that signature bass that we just made. So this will only be a simple one, and I'm thinking just like a slightly detuned saw wave. So let's just play it by itself. Put the voices up to 2 voices so that we can then start to detune it. So you can just hear that it's just sitting quite low in the mix. It's just there really just to fill out the sound. And that's really it. So we'll call this the thickening bass, like so. And now we'll create a sub bass to sit under both those synths. And now for a sub bass, we're going to once again bring in Anna. Sonic Academy, Anna, stereo. Now, mono is meant to, the sub bass is always meant to be in mono. And obviously I just opened up a stereo version of Anna. If you're worried about making sure that something is stereo, let's just get underway and then I'll quickly check. So I'm going to make this sub bass with the trusty sine wave. And I'm going to bring it down a couple octaves. So it's playing obviously very low down in the frequencies. And I'm going to be, once again, using the same MIDI. And once again, I'm going to start off with the same sidechain compression settings. Now, the sub bass sometimes needs a slightly different sidechain setting because the sidechaining between the sub bass, synth bass, and sort of the sub bass of the kick is very crucial to getting a nice solid mix down. So you want to take a lot of attention to those two. So I'll check it out either now or later on when we're doing some more mixing. But what I was going to say was, even if, oh, it doesn't really matter where you put it. If we just go into the metering and we open up the multimeter and you click on that guy and you were to play a note with our sub bass, you can see there how it's straight down the middle. So I always just have one of those open just to make sure I can see if things are mono or stereo. So this is now our sine wave. Again, if you're listening on laptop speakers, you probably won't hear this. You'll need to have either some decent monitors or some headphones, some decent headphones as well. So again, this is just another simple synth. There isn't a whole lot to do apart from make sure it just sits nicely under this thickening bass synth that we just made. Now, it's just, you can hear some clicking, so I sometimes like to try and get rid of the clicking by playing with the amp envelope here. But often you'll find as soon as you start playing the rest of the track or the kick, you can't hear that click anymore. Now I am going to see how that sounds under these guys here. Okay, so I think I had it too far down in the spectrum. Yeah. So sorry about that. So just go down one octave. So the sub bass really is such a vital part of the whole song, and it's so funny because the sub bass really is something that you can't hear. It's just it's a feel thing, and you can hear it straight away when I bypass or I take the sub bass out, and straight away the sound just is weak, and you can notice it straight away. So it just carries it, it just adds weight, and you need that weight. So just check once again what it sounds like with the kick now that I've put it back up an octave to where it's supposed to be. Yeah, so I just slowed down the release. I added a bit more release just to help smooth it out. But yeah, that's pretty much what we're looking for now. What I will obviously do is just a quick bit of mixing here. You can see these low frequencies that we're going to cut out right now. I'm cutting them out because obviously this is where the sub is going to be sitting. And we want as few overlapping frequencies as possible. So we'll just play the sub again. Now we're also going to do a bit of work on this one. Now I do like to play around with and just look at the frequencies a bit. So you can see here that this kick drum really does go pretty low into the frequencies. It goes down, you know, down to 40, and that's low. So I think I probably want this kick to be the dominating sound that's going to be in that sub frequency. So that's why I'm kind of with the sub bass here, rolling off quite generously. And I'm going to roll the top end off. So now it's sounding quite smooth and well rounded. Start to bring that back in. Okay, so that's sounding like it's coming along really nicely, and that's pretty much going to form the basis of our drop. So we'll just label that now, sub bass, like so. And I normally make my sub basses that color there. Okay, so I think we will add a top synth again to sit on top that we'll use in the B sections of our drop. So I will start a new video for that one, and we'll show you how that one's made.